Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, boxing's Harry Houdini, aka the disappearing man, aka the man who just wants to get home to his wife and kids safely, Tony Bellew, has had his say on the Oscar Valdez situation. Obviously last week Oscar Valdez tested positive for a PED, and as we know that situation has now been resolved. Oscar Valdez is still fighting Robson Cohen-Sayal on the 10th of September, and he still keeps his WBC title. So basically Oscar Valdez has faced no punishments, and obviously Tony Bellew, he's going to give his 2 cents in regards to this situation, and naturally Tony Bellew wasn't too complimentary of the WBC Oscar Valdez situation. He was very critical, and as we know, Tony Bellew wants a safe sport, and he's big on fighter safety. Drugs are a no-no for Tony Bellew. If you test positive for a PED, you need to be banned for life, the words of Tony Bellew. Obviously, unless you're his friend, of course, like Billy Joe Saunders, like Dillian White, like Tyson Fury, etc., etc. According to Tony Bellew, these guys are good lads, and they wouldn't knowingly ingest any performance-enhancing drugs into their system. If they test positive, it's obviously a big mistake, and, no harm, no foul, according to Tony Bellew. What I'm referring to is Tony Bellew's interview with IFL TV. He was talking about the Oscar Valdez situation in depth, and, to me the whole interview came across as just, pure virtue signalling from Tony Bellew. As we know, his stances on drug cheats changes from fighter to fighter, to the point now where it's basically become a Tony Bellew meme, similar to the get home safely to my wife and kids meme. That's how inconsistent Tony Bellew is on drugs in boxing. As I said, when it's a foreign fighter or somebody he doesn't know, that's when it's a problem. That's when it endangers fighter safety. But when it's a guy he does know, they wouldn't willingly cheat. They're not getting any advantage. You guys know the story with Tony Bellew. What I'm trying to say is, he's full of shit, like most people in boxing, in regards to PEDs. Most people in boxing, including fans, don't really care, as far as I'm concerned, and we can see that by the actions of said individuals. I hate bringing up Eddie Hearn all the time, but look at Eddie Hearn with Canelo Alvarez. What happened when Canelo popped dirty for clenbuterol? Eddie said that if Canelo knowingly cheated, and any fighter knowingly cheated, they should be banned for life, and that Canelo Alvarez, regardless of the outcome, will always be tarnished as a cheater. Skip forwards 24 months, Eddie Hearn's rimming Canelo Alvarez like I would rim Maya Jama. And obviously Canelo Alvarez is just the most notable example of Eddie Hearn's double standards and, again, virtue signalling. He'll talk about drug cheats in boxing, he'll say how bad it is, but he'll offer these guys multi-fight contracts worth millions of pounds/dollars. You look at boxing Twitter following the Oscar Valdez PED test, and many people on his side were supporting him, saying he did nothing wrong, and basically when he was cleared by the WBC, his fans, or basically Canelo fans, were laughing about the situation, basically gloating that he got away with it. And the funny thing is, I looked at some of these accounts who are basically batting for Oscar Valdez, kind of gleeful in the fact that he got away with it. I looked at these individual accounts, and many of these people, I scrolled back on their timeline, and they tweeted rest in peace to the female boxer who died recently. But these people care about fighter safety. On one hand, they're basically gloating their guy got away with failing a PED test. On the other hand, they're saying rest in peace to a fighter who passed away. You couldn't make it up. And speaking of fighter safety, you see that bald peanut head clown Lou DiBella. He's another guy who loves to virtue signal in regards to fighter safety, PEDs and whatnot. This is the same guy who worked with Jermaine Taylor after he suffered a fucking brain bleed. Yet Lou DiBella cares about fighter safety. And by the way, after Lou DiBella had his little stint with Jermaine Taylor towards the end of Jermaine Taylor's career, Jermaine Taylor then basically went nuts, shot his cousin. I believe he was sectioned at one point, and I still believe Jermaine Taylor's facing legal problems now. How much of that was down to boxing-related CTE? Who knows, but, if I was a promoter, if I worked in boxing and I truly cared about fighter safety, I probably wouldn't work with a guy who previously suffered a brain bleed. Most people in boxing, especially the individuals involved, like promoters, matchmakers, networks, etc., etc., most of these people don't give a fuck about fighter safety because the actions don't show it. We've seen so many contradictions of this in the past few years. All it really is cheap virtue signalling that only gullible idiots will fall for. Even myself, I have to be honest, all I really want in boxing is a fair playing field. That's as close as you're going to get to ensure fighter safety, as far as I'm concerned, which is why I have a problem with certain guys in regards to PEDs. Certain guys can take them, other guys are held under more scrutiny, which makes an unfair playing field, right? If you're going to let guys juice, let everyone juice. At least it's fair then. At least guys know what they're getting into. But when one guy has more scope to juice than the other, that's when you're going to get unfair situations. All I want is a fair playing field. Do I really care about fighter safety? We have to be honest with ourselves when it comes to this topic. If we really cared about fighter safety, the health of the individuals involved, would we really support such a sport financially where a fighter can get seriously hurt and never basically enjoy the same quality of life again, or God forbid, he can even die? If we truly cared and it was truly that important to us, would we really support such a sport to begin with? Again, I'm not saying I feel nothing when I see a fighter pass away. Obviously it's sad. Obviously you don't want to see that. But if we really cared that much, would we support such a sport? Probably not. Let's just be honest about it. Probably not, right? But all I can say is, to me, the whole fighter safety discussion, all it really is pure virtue signalling from what I see. The safest environment is to give everybody an even playing field, as far as I'm concerned. And currently in boxing, we clearly do not have that. And we've got enough subject matter to go by to come to that conclusion. Because that's all I really want to see, is an even playing field. That's as close as we're going to get. We need to be honest with ourselves and be conscious that those are the worst case scenarios of this sport. Me, myself, I'm okay with that. I understand that the individuals involved are willing participants and they take that risk. And I'm grateful for that because I love this sport. But we need to be honest about what this sport actually is and what it can do, right? But most people are not. I used to be the same way. It's very easy to virtue signal and whatnot in regards to boxing. I was once one of those guys who used to say, oh, this guy's failed a PED test, ban him for life. But as you get older, as you get more experienced, as you follow the sport more and more, you realise that's not really viable. It's not viable. When you really look into the sport and see the double standards and you see the inconsistencies when it comes to PEDs in boxing, certain guys are held to certain standards, others are held to other standards, and that's not an even playing field. And all I'm saying is, we see these, ex-fighters, promoters in boxing, such as Tony Bellew. They'll have their say on PEDs in boxing. 1 minute, they'll be virtue signalling and saying a certain guy's a scumbag for testing positive and that he's endangering the life of his opponents. But on the other hand, the very same Tony Bellew will say, well, Billy Joe Saunders would never willingly cheat. He's not that sort of guy. Tyson Fury wouldn't cheat. Dillian White wouldn't cheat. They're great guys. Great lads. This is what I'm talking about. And we see that with so many individuals in the sport of boxing, prominent members. These guys don't give a fuck. And let's be honest, neither do we. Simple as that. Share your thoughts below. It's been your guy Delboy. Peace.